Welcome to Oyate Today. Oyate in Lakota means people. Brought to you by Native Sun News Today. Hi, welcome to Oyate Today. I am your host, Richie Richards. Oyate Today is produced by Tim and Jackie Gallego. Tim is an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Our guest tonight is Mr. Dale Lamphere, a 50-year sculptor and currently the chairman of Art South Dakota. Thank you so much for being here tonight, sir.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
And you're also the designer and sculptor behind Dignity. So I want to get to that here maybe in our next segment, but I want to learn a little bit about yourself before we get to that point. So just kind of give us some background information.
Well, when you mentioned I'm a 50-year sculptor, I was hoping you were mentioning my age, you know. I got my start, I grew up on a ranch east of the Black Hills, near Bear Butte, and hadn't any real exposure to the arts, but I loved to make things. And when I went to college, University of Wyoming, I had a chance to go on a shipboard program that still exists now called Semester at Sea.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, the program had only been going for a couple years, and we got on board a ship with 350 other students from all over the world and country, and traveled around the world. We went to 18 different countries, 23 different ports, and of course every port was a major city and a university and museums, and I saw all these things that had been created over time by people that recorded the character and consciousness and values of that culture. And I realized that was a worthwhile way to spend my time, and I came back and started creating and just really didn't look back after that. That was about 1967, and so by 68, well, I had declared myself an artist of some sort or another, and I've stayed at it over all that time.
So what do you feel that exposure to, I guess, culture outside of South Dakota or outside of even our country, what has that done for you in your career then, seeing those at such a young and impressionable age?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost more than I could absorb, the whole journey, but I realized that there were so many ways to live in the world, and there was validity in every one of those cultures. They'd figured out a way to work with their environment and the circumstances they were in, and so it really opened up my mind to the diversity and the validity of all these ways that we could live.
Mm-hmm. And so what were some of your early pieces, some of those early works that you had?
Well, I kind of started with what I knew. I did what it was called an assemblage, I guess. It would be a collection of old wood and metal and stone, and put it together in things that were recreations of what I knew at that point in time. I remember doing some of the old stone buildings that are over by St. Ange. Mm-hmm. I did wagons and windmills, and then I began to put landscape with those, and soon the landscape was more interesting to me than the structures. So I did work that was large scale landscape piece. There's one here in Rapid City, South Dakota at U.S. Bank. It's a 64-foot long river breaks showing the Cheyenne River where the Belle Fourche runs in. Mm-hmm. And that's something I did back in the early 70s.
That's a great piece, by the way. I've seen that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I still like it, too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let's see. Where did you first start your career then? Where did you first get your first gig or your first job? Or how did you kind of break into that world, that sculpting world?
Well, I was real fortunate in that I was doing something that people in this area liked. And I found support right away. People would buy things. I remember I had a summer job, and I was helping build the interstate between Whitewood and Spearfish, and I showed up one day with this assemblage that I had made that was a building and in a frame and kind of a bas-relief piece, and showed it to my supervisor, and he said, "I like that. What do you want for it?" And I think I sold it to him for $35, and I quit my job. It was just a summer job. So. Yeah. But I mean, I always had good support in this area, and I'm real grateful for that.
So who were some of your early inspirations then, as far as?
You know, I had a lifelong friend, now deceased, that actually got a good education in the arts, wound up as the head of the art department at Philadelphia University. But he came back and brought my books, and we talked all summer and worked together all summer. So some of my education came from him. I certainly over time have studied others, and someone that I currently really admire and have a tremendous respect for is Oscar Howe. He single-handedly, in a way, took what we think of as native art and just opened it up entirely. I mean, he transformed native work from that point forward throughout the nation. And I have some kinship with him in that some of the way he defines his forms are things that I currently do in a sculptural way. I just kind of realized this after the fact as I was looking at some of his work. But he's certainly been an inspiration as well.
What are some of the elements of South Dakota or the culture of South Dakota, whether it's native or non-native? What are some of those elements? Because earlier you mentioned about the consciousness of art and sculpting and things like that. What are some of those elements that come into, say, your art or your sculptures, as far as, you know, those things that are found specific to South Dakota and the culture of South Dakota?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as the politicians say, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
Because for me, I mean, I feel such a sense of place, and I literally study the movement of grasses and the structure of grasses and the roll and swell of the hills and the way the prairie spreads out and then drops away to a river bottom. You know, those are just things that thrill me for some reason, and I try to capture those very intrinsic, very honest, natural forms in my work in some way. And when it comes to people, of course, the native nations that we have in South Dakota and the surrounding regions have always been a real inspiring thing to me. Again, I come back to that trip that I took where it was such a realization that there was so much validity in how people live, and I saw that in my native friends as well. You know, I mean, we're all the expression of this tremendous line of ancestry that has gone on for maybe hundreds of thousands of years. And we get to be the expression of it now, which is really an inspiring thing. And we get to say what we have to say from all of that ancestry behind us. And it's such an honor to be here as a result.
And the landscape captures that as well. On some level.
Yeah. I mean, the land is that way too. I mean, there's a response. Just this snowstorm we just had in early March or mid-March, I guess it is, of 2019. That created some forms that I got out yesterday and looked at and took pictures of and made drawings of. And, you know, I mean, the way snow drifts and the way the wind carves that snow, there's a beauty in the natural way things are laid out at that point. I mean, that's just real inspiring to me.
You had mentioned Oscar Howe a little bit ago, and he was an artist laureate. You talked about him being an inspiration, and now April 1st, 2019 marks your 4-year anniversary of you being an artist laureate for South Dakota. What is that exactly?
Well, it's certainly a humbling position. You know, I mean, I feel like during the course of my life I've just worked and I've suddenly awoken to, you know, things like that, where I get to someone's appointed me, a governor has appointed me as artist laureate. Well, you know, it's hard to feel worthy of that when you're just waking up, having done your life's work, but it's something that I feel a real responsibility to set a bar for those who are artist laureates coming later, that, you know, let's all give our very best effort right to the end. I mean, that idea of pouring your life out until you're gone. I don't want a lot of water left in the jug when I die. I want to have used that up.
Yes.
And so since I've been artist laureate, well, I've done the Dignity of Earth and Sky piece, and now I'm working on another major piece.
And we'll get to that. Let's save that for our next segment. Mr. Lamphere, and I woke up this morning interviewing you, so I feel like I'm getting there as well. So thank you for being here once again. We'll be back after a few minutes.
Native Son News has been voted the best weekly newspaper in its class for 2015 by the South Dakota and North Dakota Newspaper Associations. You can find a copy of the Native Son News at many businesses and vending machines in Rapid City and the surrounding area, and on all 9 reservations. We publish every Wednesday, so advertisers and subscribers can reach our diverse readership by calling 605-721-1266. The Native Son News covers the other side of the story.
You can't predict life's ups and downs. You just give it all you've got to stay on top. But it's easier with a partner like Security First Bank. Since 1898, we've been riding with you through the country's biggest ups and downs. And this is where we'll stay. Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on. Member FDIC.
It's really difficult in any medical clinic when we see patients injured in car wrecks who cannot afford the medical treatment that they need. So many of them had an insurance claim that they settled on their own without taking this into consideration. Of course, the insurance company won't open their claim after it's been settled, so they cannot get the medical care necessary to recover from their injuries. Before settling a claim, it would be wise to contact the insurance claim experts at Moore Faust Injury Law Group.
More than 2 million men and women have served in our military since 9/11. Now, many of them are transitioning back into civilian life. They're considering career options, writing resumes, starting businesses. ACP AdvisorNet can help. ACP AdvisorNet is a nonprofit online community where Americans can offer career advice to those who have served. Now we can serve those who served us by helping them to find their next career. Visit acpadvisornet.org.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Mr. Dale Lamphere, artist and sculptor from South Dakota. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Oh, yes.
It's been a good discussion. I need to pinch myself because I'm just glad you're a part of our show. So thank you. We had talked about dignity, and you were the designer and the sculptor and the artist behind the figure or the statue of dignity. And so, talk to me a little bit about that then. How did this begin? How did this idea of dignity begin? And take me from those early days of when this began.
Okay. Well, I was approached by a businessman here and longtime friend in Rapid City, Norm McKee. He wanted to do something that would acknowledge and honor the Native communities that we have in the state, and he wanted the image to be female, and those were basically the parameters there. And he wanted to have it of sufficient scale to get people's attention.
So big, Native, and female.
Yeah. And then we searched a bit for a site and found this wonderful location with the help of Governor Dugard, right on Interstate 90 where it intersects with the Missouri River. It's kind of the Lewis and Clark rest area, I believe is what they call it, but a wonderful location. So at any rate, after Norm and I had talked just a bit and I came to understand what he was thinking, I started drawing, I sketch and scribble and find my way somehow through that. And when I found the star quilt, and when I realized that I could incorporate that into the sculpture, that was real inspiring to me. And I mean, my understanding of the star quilt is that when a child is born, they've come from the stars and they wrap them in a star quilt to make them feel at home. And of course the star quilt is a real big, a real important part of the culture in that it's given to a person as an honor when they accomplish something of significance. You know, it just felt like it had so much important symbolism to it that I felt excited about including it. So my next step after drawing and finding my way there is I make a small clay study so I can explore it in 3 dimensions. From that I do a large maquette for the monument, and of course this happened over a period of a year, and that maquette for the monument is about 5 foot tall, and the piece of course is 50 foot tall. So 1/10 scale. I do everything that I want to do on the monument on that small scale. So I solve my problems there. And then I pull patterns off of that and enlarge those patterns onto a stainless steel sheet, cut it out, and it becomes this 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And in this case, with more than 1,000 pieces to it. Wow. Of course, a lot of engineering goes into it. I worked with a structural engineering firm here in Rapid City, Albertson Engineering, to figure out how to make it withstand the 70-mile-an-hour regular winds on that bluff.
Yeah.
It's basically a tripod with what we call a compression box that sits atop this tripod, and then the ribs that hold the star quilt out are like the ribs of an umbrella turned on its side. So if you can imagine it that way, that's the basic structure of the piece, a real elegant and simple structure that has flexibility to it. So once all those technical things were solved, I got into the human aspect of it. And I had 3 different models, Sana Harrington, and Chante Hart, and Sidney Claymore, formerly Sidney Keith, Elder Sidney's daughter. And Sana's a teenager, Chante's in her late 20s, and Sidney's probably approaching 50, something like that. So if I got those times wrong, I'm sorry. No, but each of them offered advice, an image, a presence that I tried to incorporate into the piece. And I mean, it's really exciting for me, and that I don't get to see the final product until it's done. I'm just following a healthy process along the way, and trusting in that process to make it come together. And the dignity of earth and sky, peace, came together in a way that I couldn't have really imagined. I mean, it's incredibly gratifying and humbling to me to have it be so well accepted.
And so why Chamberlain? I know you had talked about it a little bit before, but why Chamberlain? I mean, it's a great location, has a great overlook of the Missouri River, but why that particular spot in that area?
Well, there are 4 or 5 native communities right in that 50-mile radius, I think, around it. And it is, you know, that's part of it. Part of it is it's right on the main thoroughfare through our state. It gets so much visitation because it's right along that roadway, and of course it's right along the traditional roadway of the Missouri River as well. It just seemed such an important thing. And then we installed it in September of 2016, right when the Dakota Access Pipeline, Keystone Pipeline issue was underway, and she became a kind of protector of the waters.
In a way, right?
Yeah, and I mean, what I want to do too is I want to wrap around the base, cut into stainless steel, the name of every federally recognized tribe in the United States. You know, I think, I mean, it can become, my hope is, and it'll take on its own life, but I mean, in that way, it's honoring all of those who previously occupied this land upon which we are now sitting.
And so in a way too, then Dignity with her star quilt and her blanket will be able to protect and oversee and kind of provide protection over those nations and their citizens as well then.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, you know. I mean, I can only do what I do and then I let it go. It's kind of like my kids, you know, I did what I could and now they're out there on their own.
And hope for the best.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamphere, we're going to take a quick break,
Okay.
but when we get back, let's learn a little bit more about the other things that's happening in your career and in your life. So
Okay.
We'll be back after a short break.
Every day, 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 every day.
Youth and Family Services Prenatal to 5 Head Start program is enrolling now. This is a free preschool program for children ages 3 to 5 and a home visiting program for children prenatal to age 3. Both programs offer family support opportunities. If you are pregnant or have a child 5 years old or younger, call today to inquire about this free family program designed to enhance children's physical, social, emotional, and intellectual development. Give your child a head start with Head Start. Call today.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Mr. Dale Lamphere. Thank you so much for being here, sir. It's been a really good conversation. I'm just really impressed with your work there at Dignity and other things that you've been involved in. So thank you so much. You're in your 50th year as a sculptor. What are some of the other things that you're working on in your career then? What else have you got going on?
Well, I'm currently, perhaps unwisely, but currently working on the biggest project that I've ever done. It's the length of a football field.
Wow.
It is, in essence, what it does is describe the journey that everyone takes as they pursue their dreams. I mean, an idea originates somewhere in our consciousness and we can always take it a certain distance, but at some point it requires that we trust ourselves and the future and take the leap of faith to complete that dream. So, and it's something that happens to everybody. So this project that I'm doing now is called the Arc of Dreams, and it'll go over the Big Sioux River in downtown Sioux Falls.
Oh, wow.
Yet this spring and summer. Depending on when the water resides, we'll be able to get in there and kind of start working on it, on the installation. We already have the footings in place, the pieces built. I have it here in the Black Hills now near my studio. We just moved it up before Christmas from Denver. I worked with a fabrication firm there in Denver, Zimmerman Metals, that is a third-generation firm that's helped build all the structures for skyscrapers over the last 40 years in downtown Denver. So a real capable outfit, well engineered, again with Albertson Engineering. And it's a 300-foot long 2 individual arcs that come up from each side of the river, cantilevering out about 140 feet, and then a 15-foot synapse or break between them that represents that leap of faith. And there's a double helix that wraps around the main structure of it and gradually diminishes in scale, and there's some real innovative materials and techniques that we're having to use. I mean, we're right out there on the edge of what we know, and it's been a real challenge. And physically, it's been a challenge because I'm right in there helping build like I always do. I can't resist.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're real excited about it, and the hope is that it becomes a kind of icon for Sioux Falls, and that it's will have real meaning to all the people that have pursued their dreams and succeeded, and for young people who are thinking about, well, how do I get somewhere in the world? Well, you start out with this seed of an idea, just like you'd nurture any seed, and you take it carefully and thoughtfully to a certain point, and you have to trust yourself, and so this thing is descriptive of journeys that people have taken, and young people can see that as an inspiration, perhaps.
And so that missing of the center of the arc, then that kind of that keystone piece of it is missing, and that leap you're talking about is really about all of us wanting to and being at that point where we need to step over that arc. We need to get to the other side.
Yeah, and it always takes courage and faith in oneself and in the future. I mean, it's really a central part of our journey in life.
And you mentioned earlier things are kind of slowing down for you, or you hope that they would slow down for you. And what do you hope to do in the next few years then?
Well, I'm involved statewide in some arts organizations, Art South Dakota, and I have an opportunity to mentor, if not teach, some younger people. I've had always over the years, I've always had younger artists come and work for me, and many of them have gone on and developed really fine careers themselves. John Lopez does some wonderful work, and Jim Maher, certainly, there's been several of them that have gone out and made fine careers for themselves.
Do you think that art plays a role in building bridges between cultures, or between genders, or between races, or between even ages, then generations? Do you think that happens?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the best example of it recently is Dignity. I mean, there's the event that we had for the dedication of that brought together such a wonderful blend of cultures, and with a real sense of equality and equity and inclusion in that. I mean, if there's any one thing that I want to emphasize as I continue on in life, is it's inclusion. It's let's all realize that we're all come from a common humanity, and that we all have something to offer, and let's get together and do that. And I think until we do that as a state.
Mr. Lamphere, we're running out of time.
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being on our show. I want to thank our producers. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Mr. Lamphere for being here tonight. And I want to thank you for making Oyate Today a part of your night. You've been watching Oyate Today, brought to you by Native Sun News Today.